The lights flickered dimly, tracing jagged shadows across the cold metal walls of the containment chamber. I tightened my grip on the cold steel rail as I struggled against the rising tide of panic brewing in my gut. My heart raced in sync with the vibrations of the facility, a discordant hum echoing the chaos outside. Alarms blared, a relentless, shrill cacophony, which was barely noticeable against the echoing screams emanating from the adjacent sector. "Isaac, we need to go." Leela's voice sliced through the tension, urgent and strained. I turned to her, my breath quickening as her wide, set eyes reflected both fear and determination. I remembered the lighter moments, the easy laughter shared over rations during long shifts. But now those memories felt distant, echoes swallowed in this sterile nightmare. There was no time for fond reminiscing. The shriek of metal twisting, an ominous prelude, snapped me back into the waking horror of our reality. "What about Marcus?" My voice cracked, the name slipping unbidden into the chaos. He was still in the lab, grappling with something far worse than the monsters we faced. Marcus made his choice, she spat, her frustration cutting like an electric whip. "If we don't move now, we won't have a choice at all." The heart of her anger brought a surge of guilt. I had prodded him, questioning his methods, labeling him reckless. "Leela," I started, yet she cut me off. "Don't, I know what you're thinking." "I can't lose both of you." Her eyes flicked toward the sealed door, a steel barrier that stood between us and whatever horrors were on the other side. A reminder of the people we had been, the mission we had been entrusted with. But I was tired of running, tired of the containment protocols and the secrecy. The research obsession that had brought us here had betrayed us all, shattered lives in the name of progress, torn apart the very essence of humanity. I could still remember the day we received the transmission, an offer from an unknown benefactor promising unimaginable power if we agreed to enhance our biological metrics. I had believed in it, had believed in us. And look where we were now, trapped in the dark belly of an experiment gone horribly wrong. Then I hesitated, torn by the knowledge that if we left Marcus behind, it would haunt me forever. I can't just leave him. Leela pressed her hands to my shoulders, her grip firm, but her face betrayed a fracture of doubt. "If we try, we might all die. We're already compromised, all of us." I stole a glance over my shoulder where distorted shapes raced past the viewing window. A thick, sludgy substance melded into the form of a being that was once human. A grotesque caricature born from the hubris of our scientific inquiries. The screams were growing louder. "Compromise is what leads to survival, Isaac." Leela's voice turned hard, an edge pressing through the fear. "He can still make it if we don't delay much longer. Otherwise, we'll all transform into that." She pointed at the grotesque figure deformed in agony. Its eyes darted about, begging for release from its tormented state. I swayed, the reality settling deep in my chest. Running meant loss, but staying could mean becoming one of the horrors we were meant to illuminate. Yet the image of Marcus, his passion ablaze in those moments during the briefing, refused to leave me. "He needs us." Leela's expression softened, eyes pooling with a mix of fear and respect. She knew me too well. "All right, but we're doing this my way. We go in together, no splitting up. We get him and we get out, understand?" I nodded, swallowing hard against the overwhelming swell of despair. "Okay, show me the way." As we edged closer to the lab door, the rancid smell hit me like a wave, clammy and damp, tinged with the coppery scent of blood. I pressed my palm to the control panel, and with a hiss of pneumatic locks releasing, the door creaked open. The sight that met my eyes felt plucked straight from an inner demon's dread. Marcus stood there, back to us, hunched over a makeshift examination table, cluttered with vials and shattered glass. But it was his hands that horrified me. They glistened, coated in a thick, bluish residue that obscured his skin, fingers twitching as if possessed. "Get away from him," Leela shouted, rushing forward, but I seized her arm. "Oh, wait." Before we could find our voices, a resonant growl rumbled from the labyrinth of shadows that edged the chamber's periphery. Something shifted, something alive, merging the abrupt stillness into throbbing chaos. The walls shuddered once more, revealing glimpses of inhuman figures casting warped silhouettes on the ground. Isaac, a Marcus voice trembled, hollow with a mix of perception and dread. You need to leave. You have no idea what I've uncovered." And that's when the realization sank in. This was not just about us anymore. The enhancements they had promised didn't just elevate us toward prowess. They were twisting the fabric of what it meant to be human. "We're not leaving you behind," I snapped, the choice echoing around us. Marcus pivoted slowly, revealing eyes ringed with a darkness that was both alluring and horrifying. "Isaac, it's too late. You know, it's not." A creature slipped through the gap behind him, a monstrous blend of flesh, machinery, and pulsing organic horror. Panic seized me, but there was something deeper, an urge to confront the origins of this madness. "We can still fix this. We can. I created them," Marcus murmured, anguish coloring his voice. "I let them out before understanding what they could become." And with his confession, I understood. The essence of humanity was unraveling right in front of me, and the last remnants clung to a man who had wielded power carelessly. The ground shifted beneath my feet, options dwindling as shadows melded with the truth of what we had become. There was no clear choice now, only a spiral of horror as I stood at the brink of the abyss. The heaviness in the air pressed against me, an unyielding force that matched the rising tide of dread within. Marcus's revelation hung between us, suffocating. I could feel every heartbeat echoing in my ears. My instinct urged me to flee, yet my feet remained rooted in place, bound by anger and betrayal. Leela's grip tightened on my arm, her pulse racing alongside the many voices in my mind arguing for action versus indecision. "Why, Marcus?" I managed to ask, urgency bleeding into my words. "Why would you risk everything? We're supposed to be scientists, not creators of our own nightmare." Marcus staggered back, his face contorted with unmitigated remorse. "I thought I could understand them. They were supposed to be a breakthrough, an evolution in our research." He motioned to the grotesque creature slowly emerging from the shadows. "But they never should have been unleashed." Leela's eyes glimmered with unshed tears, but they were not tears of sympathy. They were shards of frustration born from feeling trapped between duty and betrayal. "You're responsible for this," she accused, anger tightening her voice. "You turned us into monsters." The creature before us, a mishmash of human anatomy intertwined with metal, growled a low, mournful sound that reverberated deep in my chest. It looked broken yet alive, a mockery of the suffering it endured, and, strikingly, something about its twisted form stirred a pang of empathy within me. Perhaps it's what we all were becoming. "Marcus, if you truly believe there's a way to fix this, now would be the time to speak up," I said, my voice strained. "We need to contain them, find a way to reverse this." "Yes," Marcus replied, desperation creeping into his tone, "but I need time to recalibrate the nanite sequence. We engineered them to explore human potential, to evolve, but we lost control. And now they will listen to me. If I can reach them before they become something worse. Time." A fleeting commodity rapidly slipping through our fingers as the sound of more creatures stirred in the darkness. My heart raced, adrenaline surging with each rumbling crash of footfalls echoing from unseen horrors. "You think they'll listen to you now? They are still tethered to the original programming. As long as I can connect, I can reroute their impulses. So we become lab rats in your grand experiment," Leela rebuked, her voice icy. "We're supposed to run, Isaac. We need to get out of here while we can." But part of me felt reconciled to a deeper truth. Running was a flight from what we had ignited, the chaos we had unleashed. Not just on this facility, but on the world. My mind grasped at the fractured glimmers of hope. No, we can't leave them. We need to control this. The tension thickened, and in the flickering lights, I caught sight of figures looming just outside the reach of the mechanical glow. Shadowy forms pressed against the walls, silently mocking us, waiting for a moment of vulnerability. Suddenly, the room shook with an intensity that knocked us off our balance. The terrifying growl echoed louder, expanding. A chorus of monstrous voices in a primal symphony. "We have to act now," Marcus shouted, urgency pulsating through each word. "Leela, I need you to bring up the auxiliary console." "We're running out of options." With a determined nod, Leela raced toward the terminal behind the tables laden with broken glass and discarded vials, her fingers dancing over the controls. My gaze swung back to Marcus as he retrieved a small device seemingly swallowed by the chaotic mess. His last hope, possibly ours too. "I'll try to establish a link," he said, his determination igniting a flicker of trust within me. "You both have to watch my back." Before I could protest, he activated the device and a pulse of light flooded the room, an ethereal glow illuminating the mutated forms that seemed drawn to the light like moths to a flame. "Isaac," Leela's voice sliced through. "They're coming." The nearest creature lunged forward, its grotesque limbs flailing, but I narrowly ducked under its reach. I'd never seen anything like it, a flash of blue fury, a once human face twisted into the essence of anguish, now ready to consume everything. "Keep them at bay. I'm almost in," Marcus shouted, his face ravaged by concentration as he fixated on the creature rising before them. His fingers flew as he recalibrated the device, sending forth directed energy pulses. Our surroundings became an electric ballet of chaos and instinct. Leela wielded a metal rod, parrying and slashing at the air as I shoved shelves to disrupt the advance of the creatures. They reacted to our movements, their grotesque forms snarling past humanity, clawing through layers of adaptation. "You can do this, Marcus," I yelled, adrenaline igniting a primal need to protect. "Focus on the connection. You need to reach them, bring them back." "I'm trying," his voice strained against the backdrop of roaring monsters. "Just hold on." The scattering of glass beneath our feet added to the chaos, intertwining with grotesque flesh sliding through the debris. I could feel the creatures growing closer, not just to slaughter, but to reclaim the link we had stretched clawing. "Hold them," Leela yelled, thrusting the metal rod with fierce resolve, pinning a creature momentarily against the wall. Yet, for each step we advanced, another creature emerged, draining our spirits, feeding on our vulnerability. Above the cacophony, flashes of their reclaimed voices drifted through the air like ominous whispers, stolen fragments swirling through the chaos, forms that echoed our initial hopes, but now warped by desperation. "I can feel them," Marcus shouted suddenly, his voice soaring across the turmoil. "They're listening, Isaac. The programming is still intact. They want control. It's always been about control," Leela cried, hacking down another manifest horror. Dark truths danced in her eyes, a spark igniting. "We can't just dominate the creatures we create." "Not dominate," Marcus countered fiercely. "Understand, it's a chance, Leela, a chance to collect the remnants before they're lost forever. Isaac, can you reach them?" A twisted mass took advantage of my distraction, lunging with jagged limbs aimed at my throat. But as its grotesque form drew near, I could recognize a glimpse of humanity swirling beneath. I hesitated, realizing this entity was no longer just a monster born from our folly. "Yes," I shouted back at Marcus, my voice then merging into a call of defiance. "If you can reach them, all of them, it could work." Marcus surged with energy, the intensity of his connection radiating in the air like a heartbeat, a pulse amidst the chaos. The room thrummed, shadows swirling around us, and I began to glimpse a path, one gilded in our combined certainty. "A reach for me," Marcus urged, reaching out toward the flickering shadows, now becoming malleable. I shoved past my questions, embraced the revelation of unity and evolution. I lunged forward, joining Marcus' fingers extended, striving to grasp the remnants of what humanity remained woven into our monsters. Leela stood resolutely beside us, driving the last of her strength, a blade against the tide of chaos that threatened to engulf us completely. Their growls turned from agonized screams to a myriad of voices, each a reflection of what they had lost, what we all shared amid the outcast crisis. "Fight," I bellowed, feeling my heart sink to whispers of a world beyond this. A fight for freedom, together. Brilliant light surged through the room, a last defiance that momentarily stilled the monstrous forms. The horror morphed, the battlefield unfurling beneath the fingertips of our anguish intertwined. Slowly, silhouettes shifted and pulled together, a flash of understanding igniting below the layers of fear. The rebirth felt palpable, the screams muting to silent resolutions. But as the light wove its way, illuminating the darkness, shadows lingered on the periphery. An inexplicable chill enveloped the edges of our newfound reality, a whisper of a still greater darkness waiting, biding its time, concealed within the depths of our lust for control. We were not alone. A deeper threat hovered, a shadow cast over the horizon, lying in wait for the moment we would stumble again. "Isaac, look out," Leela screamed, the urgency ripping through the spell we had cast. The caution tinged our triumph. I stumbled back, instinct propelling me as a lurking figure emerged from the waning shadows, an unknown force, a true architect of the darkness we had inadvertently unleashed. Long limbs fractured the dimensional space between us, gliding like a grim specter, the embodiment of the malevolence that had drawn us into this descent. Now it whispered, "You think you can tame what you've created." The world spun as the foundations we had just reclaimed erupted, bearing witness to the true battle yet to unfold. We had discovered a spark of unity amidst despair, but our fight was far from over. As the chilling voice echoed through the void, questions hung in the air, savoring the taste of conflict. What lay ahead would determine not just our fates, but the very nature of what it meant to be human in a world turned monstrous. And somewhere, lurking in the shadows, unseen eyes watched, waiting for a moment to strike. The game had just begun. The darkness writhed, a living entity undulating with the weight of centuries. In its presence, the air turned thick, each breath a labor of will against a tide of suffocating despair. I felt Leela's presence beside me, her resolve a fragile but steady anchor in the growing storm of fear. Marcus stood a step ahead, hands trembling with the remnants of his invention, eyes narrowed as he articulated commands into the device, fragments of light flickering beneath his fingertips like dying embers. "Who are you?" he shouted into the void, voice steady yet laced with questioning. Figure that emerged bore no semblance to humanity, a shifting mass resembling a distorted reflection, each layer of its presence a riddled doorway leading into darker chaos. It hovered, its voice gliding through the air like an oil slick, wrapping around us. "I am the manifestation of every sentient ghost your reckless ambition has conjured," it intoned, each word a dagger. "You tore truths from the fabric of your existence, and now I am bound to reclaim what was lost." "What are you talking about?" I demanded, stealing my voice even as it shook with fear. "This was our creation, our research. You can't hold us responsible for what was unleashed." The creature's laughter resonated, a low reverberation akin to the death knells of forgotten souls. "Oh, but you are responsible. Every decision, every desire has erected me as a fortress, built from the bones of those you abandoned, the experiments, the living potential twisted into this." It gestured to the howling forms struggling behind it. "You offered them promises, but delivered only despair." "Stop it," Leela cried, her eyes flaring with protective anger. "We've not abandoned them, we're standing here to save them," another chuckle haunting in its insidious nature. "You seek to save who? The embodiments of your own hubris. They are gone, drenched in the consequences of your delusions. What you face is not merely your creation, but a reckoning." Marcus shut his eyes momentarily, an effort that seemed to draw conflicting forces around him. "We didn't ask for this horror," he shouted, desperation tinging his voice, but within it lay an echo of understanding. "That's why we have to stop it. We'll find a way to set things right." Words clashed in the silence that followed. The shadows that lingered in the corners seemed to pulse in anticipation, watching, waiting, as if they were woven into the very fabric of the creature's fury. It shifted and coalesced, revealing fleeting glimpses of souls within a mosaic of anguished faces. An ever-consuming hunger for retribution thrummed in the atmosphere surrounding us. "Do you really believe you can atone for what you've done?" it asked, tone a baleful whisper that slid through my bones. You think sacrifice will dissolve your guilt. Your choice will only fuse your fate with theirs. In what way? I pressed, conscious of my dwindling courage. You can't decide our fates. In abrupt shift, the creature lunged forward, a surge of washing shadow overwhelming the space between us. Then choose, it bellowed, and I felt its essence clawing at my mind, darts of energy tearing apocalyptic paths through my thoughts, probing for vulnerabilities. But choose to fight, you fragile architect, wear the burden of eternity and know the price of your creation. I staggered back, overwhelmed. Images of everything we had lost, friends, dreams, our very essence, collapsed over me like a tidal wave. I sensed Leela at my side, pushing against the pressure, a fierce light igniting in those dark moments. Isaac, it wants you weak. Don't let it trick you into despair, she urged. Fight back. Instead of yielding, transform the fear into strength. The adrenaline coursed through me, the essence of our shared history, igniting a fire I had thought extinguished. I fixed my gaze on the creature, noticing the cracks forming in its veil of darkness. You're right, we did unleash this. We're flawed beings, a human family burdened by our ambitions, but we are also capable of growth. As I spoke, I reached for Marcus's device, drawn to the pulsing lights that flickered with potential. Leela, if we can harness the remnants of their humanity, maybe we can turn this around. The essence of what they were still exists within. The link, Marcus shouted, realization sparking in his eyes. If we can redirect their energy source, we might stand a chance to reclaim both them and our fates. But the creature's tumultuous laughter blistered through the air, swirling the shadows around fiercely. You think your resolution can form a barrier against me? I shall consume you all, and from the depth of your suffering I will rise. The atmosphere thickened around us. Its presence morphed into fierce winds that swirled through the room, sending debris flying and crashing. I braced myself against the shuddering walls side by side with Leela and Marcus, our unified front burgeoning with clarity. Leela, Marcus, I shouted, grasping each of their arms, their warmth grounding me amid the abyss. We have to pool our strengths. It's fear that fuels this entity. Let's transform it into resolve, ignite it with the very core of what we once believed. Leela nodded fiercely, determination sparking in her eyes. Together, she lifted her arms, channeling her spirit toward the wavering shadows. We were scientists, after all. We delved into knowledge, not for dominion but for understanding. With newfound resolve, we focused on the beast, pouring every ounce of sorrow, guilt, and haunting memories into the device. Light surged through our bodies, intertwining with the forming energy, a storm of connectivity melding our humanity with theirs, the ones we lost in the fray. Emerge, Marcus shouted, clenching the device tight, closing his eyes as he commanded a desperate connection between the fragility of souls wrapped in the creature's form. We acknowledge you, feel what remains, the shadows shrieked, the cacophony of their anguish dancing between wails of defiance and the longing for liberation. An eruption of silvery light unfurled from the device, connecting to the murky entities that roiled before us. They surged like a primal tide, dissolving through facets of horrifying reality, each fragment flickering, revealing their past beneath the monstrous exoskeleton. I felt it, threads of lost beings beckoning toward us, whispers breaking free, a tide of hope among despair. We reached back, embracing their essence, pleading for them to return to us, drowned by the darkness. The creature twisted violently, its voice rising in rage. You do not understand. You are nothing but rats, scuttling through the chaos we have woven. You cannot save them. Watch us. Leela roared, fear transforming into unyielding strength as our connection intensified. You do not own their fates anymore. The illumination burst forth, sharpening and cleaving the false shadows, unraveling the creature's grip as light streamed into the darkest caverns of it. The cries of the forgotten began to find clarity, each sound a heartbeat echoing life once more. A protection, Marcus shouted as the creature lunged toward us, forming tendrils of darkness wrapped in malevolence. Together, we stand defiant. With one unified voice, we push through the pressure, shadows shattering in a brilliant symphony of light. Asterisk, the reclamation of humanity. Asterisk, the thriving souls merged with ours, transcending despair. I saw their faces, fractured memories glimmering under the darkness. They echoed the memories we left behind. They'd endure. They would reform our futures. And then all grew silent, all, consuming light enveloping everything, the creature. The manifestation of all we had lost disappeared in the glint of our combined hope, unwoven threads casting into remnants of past sorrows. Is it over? I gasped, collapsing to the floor, bursts of exhaustion hammering against my bones. Leela knelt beside me, shaking, the weight of our choices pressing against what we had just faced. I think it is, she breathed, uncertainty dancing in her eyes. But at what cost? Marcus remained at the device, wrestling with emotions that could never find closure in mere words. This was the reflection of our own failures, but we learned. The room lay in crystalline silence, shadows lingering like ghosts waiting for release. Digging through the layers of existence, they spoke in the whispers of souls that once danced untainted by our ambition. Isaac, Marcus said softly, his fingers still trembling against the device that had once been a tempest of chaos. Or shouldn't we contemplate our next steps? What remains after this? What other trials hide in the ruins of our actions? Maybe I paused, stirring from the afterglow of horror. We should not rush into anything. Perhaps there's more we need to understand before we fully embrace what lies ahead. The remnants of chaos, battered heaps of loneliness waited as we reflected what had emerged from darkness, a shadow of illumination glowing against despair. But finding solace amid conflicted truths would prove just as intricate as the evolution of our past. With one step after another, we pushed against the tide forward, ridden with hope, yet cautious of the shadows that still clung to the edges. A labyrinth of truths lay ahead, awaiting our resolve, the choices we would face intertwining with the past and reverberating into the boundless cosmos, tangled in the dense mysteries of our shared existence. We are not mere rattlings, Leela murmured softly, a serene smile creeping across her exhausted features. We are architects, and through understanding our mistakes, we will find the grace of humility. In the distance, remnants of a new dawn began to flicker, an illumination pulling us forward, a new beginning intertwined with what was lost and yet still thrumming with hope. But with that flame flickering bright, shadows once forgotten lingered still, waiting for their moment to rise again. The chamber was steeped in silence, the weight of our shared experience pressing down like a heavy shroud. Shadows lingered along the walls, remnants of a chaos we had barely escaped. I could still feel the surging presence of the entity, its spectral fingers trailing along the edges of my consciousness. Had we truly banished it, or merely pushed it back into the recesses of our minds? Leela stood, brushing the dust from her clothes, but the tremor in her hands spoke of the terror we'd faced. Marcus, whose fervor now waned, knelt beside the flickering device, its lights dimming as if reflecting our exhaustion. The room, once a chaotic battleground, seemed eerily tranquil, a deceptive calm that made my heart race. We need a plan, Marcus said, voice steadier than I felt. His eyes, now clear of the madness that clouded them previously, scanned the remnants of the lab. What's next? We can't just leave things as they are. What's left to do? Leela asked, her brow furrowing in contemplation. We've faced the darkness and lived to tell the tale, haven't we? But as she spoke, I glimpsed the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. But we're not free yet, are we? That question resonated within me, a persistent echo that stirred my thoughts. As I gazed around, remnants of the chaos previous lingered, broken vials, twisted machinery, and shattered illusions of grandeur. This lab had been our sanctum once, a temple of discovery and brilliance. Now it felt like a graveyard for ambition. Marcus, I interjected, determination rallying within me. Maybe we haven't finished what we started. We're still bound to the consequences of our actions. We have to face what exists outside, what we've set in motion. Leela's gaze flicked toward the doorway, where shadows coiled around the threshold, whispering of dangers yet undiscovered. But the world outside, We don't know what it's become. If you're suggesting we venture forth, do we even have a way to combat the remnants of what we unleashed? Somewhere deep within me, the pieces began to align. We can't run away, at least not without confronting the truth. The problem wasn't merely the entity. We created a fracture in our ethical foundation. We thought we could manipulate nature without consequence. Marcus nodded, the fire within him reigniting. Now that we understand the complexities, the intertwining darkness woven with light, we can seek the remnants. If we hold the fragments of humanity and form connections, maybe we can reach others. That is, if there are any left. Not just anyone, Leela warned, eyes narrowing. We need those willing to embrace vulnerability. But to find them, it won't be easy. And in our search, we could face untold dangers, everything that we thought we extinguished. As weary as I was, the prospect of facing our mistakes was compelling. What about those we helped? I spoke cautiously, thoughts swirling. The ones who were left behind in our endeavor. There might still be remnants of hope, potential allies among those trapped like us. A resolute silence washed over us, and I could see the contemplation etched on their faces. The moment hung suspended in time as we contemplated our next step. Would we venture into the chaos once more, or would we allow fear to seal our fates? We have to try, I finally said, feeling the resolve solidify like adamantine steel within me. The possibility of redemption lies ahead, and we owe it to ourselves, and to them. The room shifted, the shadows casting back toward us as if grappling to maintain their grip. Unfolding our interlinked stories would entrap not just ourselves, but generations echoing through time. But, armed with determination, we were ready to face whatever awaited us beyond the confines of our sanctuary. We moved as one, stepping toward the door, the threshold between our past mistakes and an uncertain future. As the door creaked open, cool air rushed in, carrying the scent of the unknown. Shadows danced upon the remnants of our frail foundation. Out in the corridor, the facility felt like a twisted maze, corridors stretching with no distinct destination, reminiscent of our fractured choices. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I led the way, Leela and Marcus flanking me. Each corner turned felt like stepping into the pages of a horror novel, the echoes of our transformed endeavors wrapping around us. "Do you hear that?" Marcus murmured, his voice a quiet urgency that sliced through the mounting tension. Voices drifted softly, almost haunting, threading their way along the corridors like a forgotten lullaby. My heart thundered within my chest. "It's like they're calling to us," Leela whispered, stepping cautiously forward. "They're still here, trapped in echoes of the past. Or they might be waiting for release," I added, conviction blooming within me. "We have to find them. If they're alive, we owe it to them to liberate those we've wronged." Just behind the veil of fading hope, flickering lights illuminated the path ahead. We pressed onward, our hearts resonating with determination, the voices pulling us deeper into the labyrinth of our own making. Shadows writhed on the walls, flickers of light teetering on the brink of distortion. What if they lead us to the heart of the problem? Marcus pondered. If the darkness infests everything, maybe we can unearth its core. But we need caution. We've seen what lurking despair can manifest. As we ventured deeper, the air thickened, rumbles of distant upheaval echoing all around. It felt as if our surroundings resonated with every misstep from our inception as scientists, reflected in the burden we now bore. A heavy mantle that once promised discovery now clung to us like chains. Then, at the next junction, the dim corridor twisted, leading to a large open area illuminated by eerie white lights. The floors pulsated, as though alive, bound to the remnants of what we had unleashed. The air hummed, vibrating against our skin. "If something is different here," Leela said, her voice barely above a whisper as her eyes adjusted to the blinding lights. "Whatever energy is here, it seems sentient." In the center of the chamber, pulsating nodes of bioluminescent light levitated within a circular formation, casting ethereal shadows that danced against the perimeter of the walls. A silent witness to our awakening reckoning. Could this be the source? Marcus asked, eyes widening with awe and disbelief. Whatever we created, this could be the nexus. If we can understand it, it might give us insight into how to heal what's been broken. Before I could respond, a low rumble filled the chamber, sending tremors through the floor. The nodes around us flickered ominously, their glow dimming before exploding back into vibrant colors. The voices swelled, now rising to a dissonant chorus, reverberating within the chamber. "Don't rush in," Leela shouted over the din, stepping back, the urgency evident in her tone. "If this is what I think it is, we have to approach carefully. We don't know what resides inside this energy or if it's even safe. We have to try, Leela." If they are trapped, they call out for freedom. Taking a deep breath, I stepped closer to the heart of the illumination. The energy shimmered, swaying gently, beckoning me to reach out. We can't turn back now. This is our chance. "No, Isaac." Elila's voice cut sharply, but I felt an inexplicable connection binding me to the dancing light. Something compelled me toward it, a magnetic pull threading through my very existence. "Trust me," I cried, meeting her gaze before extending my hand. The moment my fingertips brushed the surface of the closest node, the entire chamber ignited, a convergence erupting from inside. A surge raced through me, knowledge arriving in cascading waves. Images twisted together, flooded my thoughts. Moments of lives intertwined, echoes of laughter, fragments of humanity wove together to form a tapestry more intricate than I could fathom. But within those memories came the visions of our darkness. The creature, the chaos. Souls bleed into one another, grasping at the edges of existence, lost in the tide of grief and sorrow. "Fight it," Leela shouted, her voice guiding me deeper. "They're not just memories, they're possible futures as well." And suddenly, the motes of light shimmered, morphing into the shapes of people I'd recognize. All the ones we'd left behind, faces filled with anguish. It was a stark reminder of the price we'd paid in our quest for discovery. A step back, Marcus urged as new flashes tore through the energy, sending vibrations soaring around us. The foundation of the chamber trembled, another reckoning. The energy cannot sustain this form under the pressure, but my grasp tightened as something within me shifted. It urged me to embrace the chaotic dance, to merge our destiny with those who had been lost. "They deserve a chance, Marcus." The edges of my consciousness sharpened, illuminating who I had become. An architect entwined with the fabric of existence. I focused intensely, determination melding into the energy thrumming beneath my fingers. "Seek the lost, seek the ones that understand," I shouted into the depths, letting the power weave through me, ready to share the burden with those within the light. The chamber exploded with illumination, and voices rose into a tempest, swirling through the energies of the room. It was exhilarating and terrifying as worlds collided, past and future intertwining once more. Hope shattered the chains of despair. They flowed through me, surged into the energy, sewing elements of our fate into a unified force. Strands of light twisted and pulled taut, weaving new possibilities together. I felt Leela grip my shoulder, and Marcus's flare of energy encased us in a protective shell. In that moment, I understood the essence of what it meant to be alive, transcended the barriers we erected. But more than that, it shaped the very fabric of our humanity. Form unity, I yelled into the symphony of chaos. From darkness springs forth hope. We are not defeated. The chorus vibrated in response, a reflection of our unity igniting through the turbulent memories. And as I concentrated harder, reality began to shift. Tendrils of light coiled around the memories, reaching back, an interconnected web pushing against despair's grasp. The shimmering core radiated around us, drawing strength from our combined essences, tethering the lost souls that reached for us. The transformations unfolded beautifully, a cascade of purified energy, bringing forth a new illumination, a flicker of their spirit. Together, we began to reshape the fabric of our reality. Ethereal silhouettes of once forgotten souls joined the light as they emerged, flourishing toward us with longing and desperation. Their voices harmonized, blending with the thunder of the pulse. Your resolve heralds a new dawn. Came a ripple through the swells of pure energy, resonating through each soul intertwined. A hope has found you worthy. It calls for your next journey, the path forged in resilience. As strands of light braided around us, we secured a future against what loomed beyond the threshold of despair. We were architects of our fate, standing shoulder to shoulder against the echoes of our past, reshaping what it meant to be human. Then, without warning, the chamber shivered as fractures tore through the walls. New energies rising, unseen forces fueled by desperation clawing their way to reclaim their dominion. "Prepare yourselves," Leela yelled amidst the roar. "This isn't over. We'll need to embrace whatever lies ahead." And we would, but in that embrace, we held within us endless possibilities, a testament to our shared strength, our intertwined spirits. Life and hope fused together, leading us toward the unknown as guardians against the shadows. We stood side by side, linked by purpose, illuminated by our choices. Beneath the swirling chaos, light carved out the path ahead, and together we forged onward into the beckoning unknown, no longer just scientists lost in ambition, but warriors against the darkness, a family forged anew through defiance, complexity, and the unbreakable bond of humanity. As the chamber fell into silence, the aftermath of our actions resonated through the still air, like the fading echoes of a battle fought in the realms of both flesh and spirit. Light pooled around us in pools of muted color, swirling and shimmering as if each illumination carried whispers of the past, stories of pain woven into the very fabric of our existence. "Are you all okay?" Leela's voice broke through the heavy stillness, her breath a shuddered release of tension. The adrenaline that had surged during our confrontation was now giving way to a profound exhaustion. I felt it too. Every muscle in my body ached as if the very act of reaching across realities had drained me of something vital. I knelt, resting my forehead against the cool metal ground, trying to collect my thoughts. "Yeah, I think so," Marcus replied, kneeling beside me, his eyes reflecting the fading lights around us. "What just happened?" He glanced upwards where the luminous nodes pulsed in an insistent rhythm, barely hanging on the precipice of their existence. "We unleashed something," Leela said, frustration bubbling just beneath her calm exterior. "We sought to reclaim what we lost, and instead it awakened more than we expected. We've set in motion a chain of events that we can't even begin to predict." She swallowed hard, looking away from the pulsating energy. "What if they come for us again?" I pushed myself upright, forcing energy into my limbs despite the fatigue settling heavily upon me. Leela was right. Our actions had resonated outwards, and as light glimmered with the promise of hope, shadows lurked at the edges of both our minds and the space around us. "We have to gather the others." I shook off the lingering fear that threatened to pull me back down. "First, we'll need to check for any remnants of those like us who've been left behind. Then we can reinforce what we've ignited here." My voice carried something unexpected, a flicker of purpose. Not all was lost, and the flickering connection held steady. Even with the uncertainty ahead, I could sense the strands weaving together into a greater fabric. There were lives we could still touch, people who felt abandoned just like we had. Leela met my gaze, her fierce nature igniting once more. The corridors held answers. We must explore what lies beyond. This place wasn't just a sanctuary of knowledge. It was a hub of all that remains. A determined grin crept across her thin lips, aligning our thoughts amidst the turmoil. Marcus nodded, gathering himself as he rose to his feet, determination infusing his posture. Agreed. We can't do this alone. If there are others like us, we need to find them before the tendrils of despair catch them unawares. As we exited the chamber, I felt a renewed sense of vigor swelling within. The corridor stretched before us, illuminated by a pulsating energy that beckoned. Every step felt like a revival, a reclamation of what we thought we had lost along our chaotic journey. The layers of uncertainty still shrouded us, but now I could sense an undercurrent of potential unity. Deliberately, we navigated through the facility where echoes seemed to whisper from the walls. From decisions made in pursuit of ambition to the lives we had unwittingly endangered. Conversations, laughter, and even protest hovered in the air, remnants of people who had once walked this path alongside us. Past broken glass and twisted metal, we ventured deeper until we reached a series of corridors branching out into hidden spaces. The hum of electricity began to surge around us, winding its way through dilapidated doors and vacant rooms. There, Leela pointed, excitement sparking in her eyes. A faint glow radiated from one of the side chambers, spilling out into the darkened hall like a lighthouse beckoning lost ships. With resolute focus, we approached the light. As we stepped inside, the scene that unfolded stole my breath. It was another assembly area, not unlike the one we had occupied. In the center stood a group of lingering figures, their faces freckled with uncertainty, fragments of a shared history written across their expressions. They turned towards us, eyes wide with both hope and apprehension. You're alive," a voice broke through, thick with disbelief. "Is this really happening, Sophie?" The moment the name escaped my lips, recognition shot through me. The biotechnologist who had once questioned the project's ethics, the voice of caution amidst the storm of ambition. She stepped forward, a tinge of relief washing over her as the light from the nodes illuminated her features. Isaac, Leela, Marcus, Sophie's eyes shone bright in the dim glow. "I thought you were lost, taken by the darkness. We fought back," I responded, hope igniting in our reunion. "We've come to find you and those who might still be trapped here. There's still so much to do." There was a mix of emotions among the group. Bewilderment, animosity, but above all, a flicker of hope. The others we tried to hold on. We tried to resist, but they kept coming, and we lost track. Sophie's voice trembled. "Lost track." Leela interjected, urgency threading her words. "There's still time. We need to gather everyone here. Everyone who survived, so we can find a way to contain what's been unleashed." "Contain?" murmured a tall figure standing at Sophie's side, voice laced with skepticism. "You think we can hold the darkness? It won't end until it consumes everything." A chill settled in the air, a remnant of doubt creeping into our hopeful moment. "It will end," Marcus countered, stepping forward to engage, "but we can't do it alone. Together, we have the strength to reclaim what was lost. Bring everyone together. The more we unite, the brighter our light becomes." From the hidden corners of the chamber, reluctant nods began to surface among the group. But it was accompanied by lingering trepidation. "We can't just rush in blindly," one of them, an older scientist whose name momentarily escaped me, cautioned. "We don't know what dangers are still lurking in these halls. We might not have much time," I emphasized, sensing the urgency growing again. "The others are still in danger. We've learned that fear only forges a bond with darkness, and time stands as a precipice in this chaos. We cannot let fear dictate our choice again." Sophie's gaze faltered from the uncertainty to an ember of resolve. "You're right. If we don't fight for them, we're merely prolonging the inevitable. It's worth the risk to see if we can save the others who are still trapped." Her voice steadied, echoing between us. An air of solidarity began to form among our makeshift group. They gathered their courage, buzzing with the energy of renewed purpose. "We'll do it," one of them declared, his voice filling with conviction. "We're not going back into the shadows. We move, we fight as one." "Let's do this," Leela echoed, her spirit infectious within the room. We set out into the dimly lit corridors, guiding one another through the labyrinth that weaved between hope and uncertainty. Fluorescent lights humming above illuminated a path through the remnants of past ambition, where shadows twined to encapsulate fragments of lost souls. Each doorway we stopped at held the potential for reclaiming light. As we traversed deeper, every flicker of energy guiding us, every heartbeat harmonized our determination, revealing corridors and chambers choked with lost narratives and the murmur of a struggle woven into the air. Energy crackled at the edges, waiting for reunion, but also filled with the tang of necessary confrontation. At last, we found the first door, warped and cracked but still intact. "This way," I urged, pushing it open with a gentle touch, revealing a dim workshop that had seen its share of loss. Dust coated the surfaces, the once polluted zeal now serving as an echo of forgotten laughter. "Is anyone there?" Marcus called, voice cutting through the silence like a knife. For a moment, the stillness filled the room, and I held my breath, anticipation dancing eagerly. Breath slowed, but then, from the shadows of the rear, a faint rustle echoed. A disheveled figure stepped forward, eyes wide with disbelief. "Isaac, Leela, Marcus, is that really you?" Ryan, one of the central researchers involved with the enhancements, emerged, his face drawn and lined with fear. "I thought we were done for." "What happened?" "A lot has happened," I urged, stepping forward, the urgency spilling into my words. "But you're not the only one. We're gathering everyone who might still be left, and with your help, we can reclaim what was lost." The joy of reunions rippled through the corridors, mirroring the motivation fueling each step forward. With every gathering, a circle forged, communities reclaimed, exchanging stories of their struggles and resilience against the wave of darkness that had engulfed us all. As we unlocked chamber after chamber, voices joined in a rising tide, creating a sense of tapestry woven from disparate lives, reneged on, rejected, yet somehow still weaving a fabric threaded with hope. But as we spread, the distance loomed on the horizon, the realization that with each new face gathered, echoes of despair drifted deeper into the unknown. A lingering darkness hummed beneath our renewed purpose, lingering like ghosts among us. A constant reminder of the fragility we faced. Just as we reached the next corridor, a sudden tremor rippled through the air. A warning echoed. Leela turned sharply. "What was that?" "But it feels different." With a frantic energy, we surged towards the source, crossing through remnants of the past. As we neared the heart of the facility, the air thickened, lessened, each heartbeat reverberating with urgency. Finally, at the junction where the energy pulsed wildly around us, a frigid wind descended, coiling into the space. Shadows writhed at the edges, beckoning yet menacing. It felt both familiar and alien. With growing dread, I sensed the truth. An unsettling presence heralding the return of something we thought we had defeated. "Prepare yourselves," I yelled, adrenaline surging through me as anticipation mounted again. Whatever lies behind this door, we will not face it alone. We unite, revealing the entrance. A concealed chamber unveiled, a sprawling void, swirling whorls of despair and pain smeared across the once bright walls. The very center pulsed with what we had unleashed. A representation echoing our darkest moments, darkness reawakening, sparked into life once more. We stood poised on the threshold, ready to reclaim not just our light, but the very essence of what it meant to bring transformation to this fractured reality. The "let's go" Leela propelled us forward, lighting up everything as we surged, standing shoulder to shoulder against the shadows that whispered our past. A new fight igniting, a future woven from the heartstrings of hope, forged from resilience, but forever lingering on the edge of despair. Below the sea of uncertainty, we took our first step together, against the ominous veil that lingered ahead. Together, we would find our way back into the very heart of humanity, the stark division of light and darkness echoing a renewed purpose, a confrontation of our collective pasts as we marched onwards, ready to take on whatever awaited us beyond. Glowing links intertwined with our resolve, forging ahead, a relentless call to battle. A collective journey unfolding in unity, hope thriving even amid uncertainty. Through the corridors of our past and into the abyss of the unknown, we stepped forward defiantly into the light. The air was thick with tension, electric with the remnants of energy that pulsed around us. As we breached the chamber's threshold, the atmosphere shifted, subjects of our previous encounter alive again. Remnants of our past twisted into palpable fear clawed desperately at the edges of our consciousness. We had faced the darkness before, but this felt different. A heavier weight lingered in the void, beckoning us forward while threatening to consume everything we had fought for. Our collective breaths echoed in the vast, swirling space, and as the shadows writhed before us, I could feel the hearts of my companions thundering in unison. We were ready, though undoubtedly unsettled, pushing past the veil that threatened to enshroud our resolve. Together, I muttered under my breath, feeling Leela's presence beside me, her fingers brushing my arm. A touch of reassurance as we confronted the unknown. At the center of the room loomed a colossal sphere of darkness, a stark contrast to the blinding light we had fostered. It thrummed with chaotic energy, memories of our past woven into its exterior, a surreal mixture of pain and insight chilling the air around us. Faces distorted, anguished, swam in front of my eyes, flickering with each pulse of energy. They were reflections of every life. Our ambitions and reckless curiosity had touched, haunted remnants, still lingering in a surreal limbo between existence and oblivion. Isaacs, Leela's voice quivered slightly as she tilted her head. What do we do now? The weight of responsibility crashed down on me as I searched for words, heart thrumming wildly within my chest. We had traversed so far, and yet, here we stood on the precipice of oblivion. The shadows that coiled around the sphere felt like an invitation, a call to confront the anxiety and guilt woven throughout the tapestry of existence we had shattered. We face it, I finally said, the certainty boiling to the surface even as my insides twisted. That's all we can do. If we allow the darkness to persist, we risk losing everything again. Marcus clenched his fists at his sides, rallying his strength as the shadows flickered more furiously. We must channel our past into something new, an understanding of every consequence, every loss. We are not defined by the darkness, but by our will, to an illumination that comes from resilience. The wiry energy radiated from him, and I could feel it flickering like a pulse, the light we had awakened pushing against the heart of the abyss. Recalling the dance we had performed amidst struggle, the understanding of what entwined our fates surged forth. I took a step forward, glancing at the swirling darkness, igniting the embers of courage that flickered within us all. What we've lost does not have to be the end. We are not alone. We can transform what's trapped within, reshape it with alliance. I raised my hand, fingers reaching toward the pulsing sphere. We invite them to join our light. As if answering the call, the shadows surged violently, twisting and snapping as they threatened to engulf us. The rhythm of despair echoed like a torrent, resonating our deepest fears. Don't let it consume you, Leela shouted, pushing forward as she held onto my arm, feeding into the current of collective energy we had built. Our friends gathered closely, empowering one another with every heartbeat, fanning the flame of hope ignited amid the chaos. Then, in unison, we raised our arms, entwining the echoes of our past with a surge of determination. The weight of light blossomed alongside the darkness, illuminating our faces in warm hues, a beacon of unity fueled by every life we had touched. Let them know, Marcus called out, his voice ringing with authority. We're not afraid of what's lost. We embrace every heartbeat, every sacrifice. The sphere trembled under the combined potency of our will, ripples of light pulsing forth from our hands, melded with the raw energy we had once unleashed. A tapestry woven of fear and resilience intermingled. Inside the darkened vortex, faces began to emerge, desperate souls trapped within a tempest born from our hubris. Join us, I cried, heart swelling with desire to echo the mantra of reclamation. You are not forgotten, we remember. We carry your hope, reclaim your light. With every word, the shadows danced, caught momentarily in the whirlpool of light. There was a flicker of recognition, a yearning for unity piercing through the veil. In that moment, the primal chaos descended to moments of pure stillness. And then chaos erupted. Tendrils of darkness lunged toward us, thrashing against the protective barrier we had forged. Defend it, Leela yelled, and we instinctively formed a circle, amplifying our connection, pushing our light against the onslaught. Each member of our group held steady, urging forth the warmth between us, illuminating the center against the shadowed vying darkness. We poured our spirit into the foundation, all the despair fueling each bolt of energy that pulsed around us. The encroaching darkness recoiled, twisting and writhing, making desperate attempts to wrest back what it had lost. Wherever the tendrils touched, patches of light spurred forth their brilliance, manifesting hope. Together, we called, echoing within the depths of desperation. Together we rise, and the energy surged blast after blast, tearing through the cocoon of shadows encasing us. Yet the shadows began to sink low, clutching at their panicked forms around the edges. They were alive, remnants of our past, grappling for their faded humanity. Surrender, a sinister voice echoed, slicing through the clamor, emanating from the depths of the sphere. It trembled, fighting against our unyielding light as it morphed into a wrathful form, a monstrous visage pulsating with agony. "You cannot fight what you have created," it snarled, bombarding us with flashes of anguish. Visions extinguishing lives, ambitions spiraling into oblivion. The weight of the past loomed large, but we were unfurling the truth against the storm. "Embrace it," Leela cried, her voice resonating through the shadows. "Feel what we have felt. Use your pain and let it propel you forward." A momentary stillness, then an erupted a wave of flickering lights cascading between our gathered forms. I could sense the struggle within the shadows. The once familiar faces seemed drawn once more into the glow of the light we birthed, threading through the chaos. They were no longer just victims. They were participants in our tale, reconnecting with the core of who they once were. The darkness grew strong, yet we dug deeper. With every ounce of resolve, we commandeered every heartbeat, each driven by the memory of unity and loss. Pieces of essence coalesced into a storm of color, energy fizzing like fireworks as our intertwining desperation and hope sliced through the darkness. And then, with one final push, we plunged into collective consciousness, breaching the sphere, weaving through the chaotic mess it entwined. The shade of hatred began to unravel as the faces and souls surged, reaching for the light. A vortex of resilience emanated from the very core. "Let them join," I urged, fingers splayed wide. "Reclaim your essence, reclaim your lives." Light burst forth from the amalgam, a kaleidoscopic eruption of humanity connecting, reaching, roaring into the void. Shadows intertwined but began to release their grasp. Flickered faces emerged, together building strength amidst the chaos. Inside the sphere, unity ignited. A specter of radiant brilliance flooding every crevice, every wisp of darkness struck apt. "We stand together." The air vibrated with the voice of generations rippling through time. A population once burdened now radiating with renewed resolve, overflowing with life. And within that vortex, the victor's chant resounded. A new mantra weaving through as myth and hope entwined, flipping a narrative long tangled in despair. "From the ashes we rise." The reclaiming chorus echoed through the chamber, filling the very fabric of our existence. The darkness began to dissipate, fraying at the edges as the tendrils withdrew like a receding tide. Above us, the storm that had threatened to swallow everything gradually faded, banished by our unity. In the aftermath, the chamber lay bathed in the warm glow of dusk, a sanctuary breathing life into the essence of humanity reframed. We were not merely survivors, but architects, beacons of the light forged in our resilience. The shadows that had pursued us melted into shards of nothingness, and among the stillness filled with energy. Threads of hope and healing wove through our reformed reality. As silence descended, we stood together in awe amidst the radiance, breathing fervently. That which had once infested our dreams, transformed into something vibrant. "We did it," I breathed, heart thrumming in rhythm with the collective pulse surrounding us. "And not just us," Leela whispered, her gaze meeting mine. "Everyone fought today. Our shared light remains, and now we carry it out into the world." Renewed purpose ignited within me, each moment we had gathered here reverberating into infinity. There remained a path that lay forward for us, one filled with the promise of rebuilding and fostering connections. "We have a mission," Marcus affirmed, a smile breaking through weariness. "Together, we'll reshape what remains, tend to the light, and carry hope through every shadow." We emerged from the darkness with a renewed understanding anchored in the complexity of our origins, bound by the experiences that had transformed us, forever etched into the core of our collective spirits. With each step forward, we would reclaim the world from the fringes, carrying the weight of humanity's essence, transcending darkness to harness our resolve, illuminating every path we ventured forth. And united, we would greet that future together, no longer fretting about shadows, but embracing the light that lay ahead. We had transformed. We had finally become the architects not only of knowledge but of hope. a vibrant testament to what it meant to exist, endure, and rise forth through everything. The path was uncertain, but we were ready to forge it anew. Behind us lay the echoes of what we had faced, but also glimmers of possibility, boundless and bright, looming on the horizon, beckoning us toward endless opportunities woven together by the threads of our shared experiences. Letting that sweetness linger in our hearts, we stepped forward, ready to embrace the journey that awaited us. As we stepped beyond the threshold of the chamber, a sharp shiver ran through my spine, every breath mingling with the electric air still tinged by the chaos we'd just faced. The facade of the facility loomed around us, corridors stretching endlessly in all directions like the arteries of a once thriving heart that now lay faint and wounded. But with every step we took, the heaviness of despair transformed into the pulse of renewed purpose, a vibrant rhythm born from the unity we had forged amidst darkness. With our hands intertwined, we marched forward, the remnants of our encounters igniting a blaze of hope inside us. Leela's presence simmered with energy beside me, each heartbeat resonating with the collective spirit rallying amongst our cohort. Even Ryan, still recovering from the trauma of isolation, stood strong with Sophie, their gazes lit by determination akin to a shared awakening. It was no longer just about survival, it was about reclamation. "Where do we go from here?" Marcus asked, breaking into my thoughts as we approached a junction. I had to admit, the pathways twisted ominously like a labyrinth, and it felt as though with every choice we made, we could potentially plunge ourselves back into the darkness. "We need to find our way back to the control center," I replied, confident but acutely aware of the lingering uncertainty. "If we can access the central database, we might find records of other survivors and map out the routes of escape." Sophie nodded, her brow furrowing. "We've got to retrieve anything about the current states of the experiments or locations where others might still be trapped. It is our best chance for survival." The group settled into the rhythm of purposeful movement, the air rife with urgency. Though radiating energy surged within me, a hesitance began to gnaw at the corners of my mind. Whispers of caution from the shadows we had narrowly evaded. What awaited us in the depths of this facility? We navigated through the flickering lights, remnants of a world at odds with itself. The torched remains of memories scuttled around like ghostly shadows. Faces once vibrant, now drained of color, danced through my thoughts, merging with the fabric of existence. I could feel their pain, their longing, intertwining with the very essence of who we were growing to become, embracing our identities, shaped by perseverance. As we turned a corner, a chilling wind rippled through the corridor, carrying with it soft, desperate echoes, a facsimile of voices yearning for liberation. "Listen." Leela paused suddenly, straining to capture the sounds that cascaded through the air. "Do you hear that?" "Yeah," I admitted, my stomach twisting with dread. "It's coming from up ahead. Should we check it out?" Ryan proposed cautiously, but uncertainty danced behind his eyes. "What if it is more of those entities?" I felt my heart thud heavily in my chest, echoing the threads of fear that tethered us to our previous hauntings. But with a rush of resolve, I stepped forward. We need to at least try. There could be survivors, people still in need of rescue. We can't ignore their cries. Our group exchanged glances filled with a silent understanding, anxiety morphing into an unyielding purpose. We crept closer, the voices growing louder, weaving through the din of machinery and flickering lights. As we advanced into the next chamber, a scene unfolded that shook me to my core. Nestled amidst the shadows were several figures huddled and disoriented, their faces painted with fear and uncertainty. "Help us," one of them cried upon seeing us. It was a young woman, her clothes torn and her eyes wide with desperation. "Please, help, they captured us. We're here to help," I called out, extending a hand to bridge the gap between us. "Can you walk?" As the group anxiously stepped forward, I caught sight of those around her. A ragtag assembly of survivors marked by the hallmarks of neglect. Their eyes faded dimly amidst the burden of past encounters. Form a line, Sophie instructed firmly, her experience guiding us as she assessed the situation. We'll get you out of here. Leela stepped beside me, her expression fierce with urgency, but we have to be careful. Remember, the darkness is still lurking just outside this chamber. We've just fought one battle. We can't afford to be reckless now. I nodded, steeling myself against the urgency pulsing through me. Let's lead them back, then. Stay close. We'll navigate the safest route. As we assembled the new group, I couldn't shake the overwhelming instinct to protect them, to offer a glimmer of hope that even in the deepest dark, light was still a touch away. We formed a small contingent, a beacon of determination wrapped in whispers of encouragement, moving cautiously back through the holes we had learned to navigate. With each step, a shiver of foreboding foreshadowed the challenges ahead. The survivors were fragile, haunted by their experiences, wearing their anguish like woven threads around them. I hoped fervently that we could bolster their resolve as we joined their light with ours. Together, we would confront the shadows waiting beyond. Head down that corridor, I urged, pointing toward a path shrouded in dim light. As we pressed forward, the tension radiated with every cautious footfall, every heartbeat echoing in an uncertain dance. Emerging from the darkness momentarily, we broke into a larger chamber filled with remnants of technology, dilapidated consoles with flickering screens washed over in dust and decay. But as we drew closer, I noticed a familiar buzzing sound emanating from the center of the room, intertwined with intermittent flashes of light. "Look," Leela exclaimed, her eyes shining. "That's the control center." Without hesitation, we moved to the terminal, a silhouette standing against the burgeoning energy. A sense of power flooded my veins, igniting my determination even amidst the uncertainty ahead. "We need to access any intel it holds, plans, survivors. Anything." The operators turned to us, drawn from their grief. Is it you?" One gasped, disbelief etched in his features. "We thought we were the only ones left." "Not anymore," I responded, heart racing. "We will uncover what you need. Together, we can finish what we started." Leela slipped into the console's interface, fingers dancing across the keyboard that flickered mechanistically. Lights around the chamber flared, illuminating the faces of the weary survivors and igniting hope amidst despair. "We can still do this," she called, her spirit unwavering. "We'll root out the information and map our next steps." As the computer whirred to life, lines of data streamed across the screen, revealing pathways through the facility and glimpses of survivors' locations, their fates tangling precariously with ours. "Each data point is marked, but there are still several sections sealed," Marcus murmured, his brow furrowing in concentration. "We'll require specific access codes to open those areas. Then we'll have to find them," I stated decisively, the room growing taut with anticipation. "Wherever they are, we'll break down the barriers. This isn't over until every soul finds light again." The survivors nodded, an energy sparked that melded excitement with apprehension. Here, in the heart of what could have been a coffin of dreams, we transformed it into a sanctuary of reclamation, one where stories could unfurl like blossoms even amidst withering days. With our collective resolve, we plunged deeper into planning, remapping our connection amid the ruins of uncertainty, every moment charged with the future we were striving to unlock. The lost were finally finding footing amidst the chaos of their memories. But as screens flickered on and data continued to emerge, I felt the shadows clawing at the edges of perception once more, a palpable reminder of the inevitable darkness that awaited us if we faltered, a chilling whisper that anticipated our every move. "Isaac," Leela suddenly cried, her eyes wide as she pointed to the screen. "Oh, look, we have company." My heart seized as flickering images coalesced into forms on the monitor. An army of twisted shapes, shifting grotesqueries advancing down the hole we had just traversed, shadows moving with intent, reclaiming the darkness. "Prepare yourself," Marcus barked, instinctively stepping forward. "They know we're here." A sense of urgency throttled my breath and we braced ourselves, knowing what lay beyond the veil we had dared to breach. The darkness evoked memories of despair, beckoning like an ancient force eager to reclaim. "Stick together," I called out, adrenaline coursing through my veins as we regarded the control center. "This battle isn't over. We need to stand and fight." With resolve, we aligned ourselves shoulder to shoulder, a unity stronger than every wound, illuminating the very heart of our humanity as the shadows threatened to consume us whole. As the darkness reared, a shadow stretching beyond the recesses of the facility, we began to embrace the symphony of defiance, armed with courage and the very essence of our collective resolve. In that moment, as the shadows surged toward us, the promise of hope crackled through the air. No longer were we navigating through mere survival, we were here to reclaim the narrative of humanity, armed with the flame of connection radiating from the space we had woven together. And together, we would become the architects of our own fate, illuminating the darkness with every step forward. The unfolding of our journey, a fight not just of bodies, but of spirits, had only just begun. The chamber was a cacophony of chaos, the vibrations of impending conflict reverberating through the very foundations of the facility. The twisted shapes coalescing in the gloom around us were not merely remnants of our past, but an amalgamation of everything we had unleashed, embodiments of despair locked within us, now materializing to reclaim their dominion. "Here they come," Leela shouted, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. I could see the shadowy figures merging, a swirling mass of conflict pressing against the unfurling light we had so carefully nurtured. "Hold your ground," Marcus barked, his stance solidified with determination as he conjured energy from the core of the control center, fingers sparking with raw potential. "We're not letting them take what we've built." The survivors rallied behind us, their eyes wide but now filled with a shared understanding, a recognition of what we had to reclaim. United, warmth surged, flowing through the air between us as if we were one luminous entity ready to confront the oncoming storm. The darkness roiled, shifting like oil on water before us, morphing into recognizable shapes, once human, now monstrous distortions of anger and sorrow. Their faces were twisted in rage, fury spiraling atop grief and anguish as they advanced, thirsty for vengeance. For too long, they had been bound by the chains of our miscalculations, a reckoning for every life lost to ambition. And now, I cried, the command resonating through our ranks as we released the binding ties of our collective spirit. Streams of energy blossomed around us, an expanse of light intertwining with the silhouettes lurking in chaos. With a single command, we were ready to launch. Echoes of our humanity burst into a unified front as we thrust forth, embracing the storm of potential around us. The first wave of darkness surged against the light, a wave of thrumming energy crashing against our barrier, a strobe of fury and defiance igniting the air. Each pulse collided, ripples sparking outward, a stark reminder of every life that had brought us here. "Keep pressing forward," Leela shouted, pushing against the advance, positioning herself next to Ryan, their shoulders pressed tight against each other. "We hold this ground. We've come too far to falter now." With every surge, the monstrous forms shrieked, echoes reverberating like the howl of 1,000 lost souls, cries merging into a terrible symphony that clawed at our memories. But underneath it all, we found the core of what we fought for, the warmth. Our light, Isaac, Marcus called, strain evident as he uprooted beams of energy, collecting the remnants of lost souls swirling in the air. We need to channel it further, find the anchor points, the places where their energy is strongest. "Right," I shouted back, heart racing as I turned to the shadows, recognizing the patterns that bound us together as one entity. With clarity, the shape of a familiar figure began to emerge from the maelstrom, the visage of Marcus's earlier creation, now twisted into a mockery of its former identity. Its once expressive features reflecting anguish rather than intelligence. But even amidst the horror, I could see it was caught between the remnants of its humanity and the chaos binding it. "Say their names," I urged the group. my voice a relentless tug against the din. Let them remember who they were. Give them strength. Cynthia, Sophie shouted, her voice cutting through the tumult, reclaiming the lost. Stand with us. The energy pulses flickered, brightening. The collective names rang out, a symphony of connections flourishing in the air as we ignited the shared memories between us. Each name summoned energy, a tethering force drawing strength from our bonds. Harold, Ryan bellowed, eyes fierce and unwavering. James, Leela echoed, a relentless determination gripping her heart. More names followed, every voice a beacon propelling light forth, glowing brighter as the shadows shifted unsteadily. The figure of the twisted creation hesitated, flickering as if caught between realities. A thread to our past still tethered in place. Join us, I called, desperation laced with hope. You are not lost. You still have a home within us. The dark figure pulsed, light flashing across its visage, resonating with the names threading their way through the shadows. Amidst the cries, a shimmering response rippled through the energy. Hope flickered within the collision of light and despair, drawing in its essence. Together, Marcus commanded, "Let us reclaim what was lost." And together we surged forward, channels of light ceaseless and bursting, binding us with the luminous weight of humanity. A weaving of energy growing immeasurable as we poured our hearts into the fray. The darkness quivered, starting to retract as if recoiling from the warmth of our joined spirit. The grotesque energies attempted to claw at our shield, but each name summoned strength, filling the cracks, forging an impenetrable wall against the tendrils that scraped hungrily. "Behold, we can do this," Leela shouted over the swelling chaos, her voice filled with a fervor that ignited camaraderie across the space. In that heartbeat, a new current surged, driving the spirits of the lost toward the glow of reminiscence. A connection sparked anew. "Arise with us," I roared, and with every ounce of energy that intertwined, a tide shifted. "Find your footing, reclaim your legacy. You are not shadows, but the essence of life." Like a lighthouse amidst a storm, the light surged forward, energy coalescing into palpable brilliance. Together, we tightened the bonds, merging with the energy, a solid formation of intent that pushed against the oncoming darkness with unyielding resolve, driving them away. "No!" A voice shrieked from the amalgamation of shadows, furious yet haunted. "You cannot extinguish what is ours. You've created this mess, now face it." The mass splintered, and jagged limbs clawed toward us, but we held our ground, combining our forces. "We can bring back what you lost," Leela called defiantly. "Share the light, we'll heal what was broken, together," Sophie shouted, the words echoing, reverberating against the chamber walls. "The past does not define us. We choose to illuminate the future." The surge of energy billowed, expanding with purpose. A maelstrom of warmth pushing against the storm, shining relentlessly against the shadows daring to reclaim their hold. And then, like a crescendo echoing through the bones of the world, a ripple formed. The figure caught within the mass emitted a brilliant light, hovering between existence and oblivion. "Join your lives to our light," I yelled, and the pulse responded reverently, a final flicker. We reached out, intertwining energy weaving through the chaos with ferocious intensity, striking at the heart of the darkness beyond. Suddenly, as we combined forces, light shot forth, blasting through every specter of doubt, illuminating everything with brilliance. Brilliant rays burst, scattering darkness like smoke dissipating in the air. As the shadows buckled and flared, the remnants of lost souls flickered in time. All the faces woven along our path emerged, their spirits intertwining with ours. Together we forged a new unity, weaving light through the darkness, reclaiming every heart that yearned for freedom. "Yes," Leela cried, triumph radiating through her voice as the energy surged. "Fight!" Marcus roared beside us, his presence forwarding courage. "Find the pulse of your truth." The masses began to retreat, shadows dissipating against the relentless fury of light. Pain and despair unspooled one thread at a time, revealing the essence of their beings intertwined with ours. A consolidation of fear turned to resilience. Remember, Ryan shouted, pressing forward, pushing against the tension. You were not lost, and together we reclaim hope from despair. With every cry shared among us, the luminescence surged, carving pathways through the darkness. As it twisted and shrieked, the echoes of the past began to meld into something extraordinary, recollecting faces, laughter, love, and unity. And then, as we stood forged against the remnant shadows, the darkness finally shattered, obliterated by the sheer force of our combined resolve. The room erupted into light, a brilliant glow radiating outward, illuminating everything in its wake. A moment of silence enveloped the chamber as we stood there, basking in the aftermath, the remnants of darkness fading away. The space pulsated with life, vibrating in pronounced frequencies of hope as the echoes of lost voices merged into the air, melodies of remembrance shaping the world anew. Breathless, we exchanged glances, relief etched upon every face, our bond now deeper than ever. The darkness was gone, and the collective spirit we had ushered forth began to surge around us like a luminous aurora. "Will we be okay?" Sophie whispered, the vulnerability evident behind the strength she had offered throughout. Together, I nodded, returning the unspoken question that weighed heavily on our hearts. "We'll navigate this together. We have awoken every life lost. This must mark a new beginning, one tethered in unity and resilience. We will share that light." Slowly, we turned toward the central control panel, pulsating softly before us as it glowed with potential. It felt promising, a beacon of our renewed purpose. With our future uncertain but alive with possibilities, we could procure a map, a path to whatever lay ahead. "We need to find a way to connect with the world outside," Marcus stated, stepping toward the console, fingers hovering above the surface. "There are still others who might be lost, places still overrun. They need to know they aren't alone, nor should we forget what we have fought for." Through exhaustion and heartache, we found ourselves at a crossroads, a new journey unfurling as we attempted to heal the rift created long ago, smithing bonds between humanity and science, alongside shadows transformed by the light we nurtured. As we gathered together, breathing deeply into the expansive air around us, we allowed ourselves to reflect on the past, the long road ahead, the challenges behind. We remembered the faces that had escaped the shadows, their essences woven with our own. Wrapping arms around one another, we sustained hard. One hope, past, present, and future commingled through our hearts, creating an unbreakable tether. And so, as we took the first steps toward the expansive unknown, we breathed in the depths of possibility, ready to share our story with the world. The architects of a new future, no longer forging ahead alone, but together reclaiming the essence of humanity enmeshed within the purity of light. Together, we would honor all the lives we had touched and all that we had faced, embarking on a journey to unite voices anew. And as our laughter echoed in the vast chamber, the promise of dawn awaited just beyond the horizon, painted golden by our choice to rise, united as one.